I'm Scott Reeder. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com, coming to you today from the world headquarters of Warwick and famous Markneukirchen, Germany, with our special guest today, Scott Reeder. What's happening, Scott?
Just got here last night. Got a little bit of jet lag. They've filled me up with some coffee, and here we go.
Here we go. It's great to meet you. I think we're Facebook friends.
Yes.
And we chatter back and forth or whatever the kids say. And it's good to sit down with you in person finally after getting to know you online. Now I get to know you in person. I could touch you and sit next to you and talk to you and all that good stuff. Let's talk about you. There's the first thing that I think anybody would notice when they see you play is how you play the bass upside down and backwards, and by many standards completely wrong, I would probably, but
it's about as wrong as it gets.
Well, how do you make it sound so good?
It came from my grandpa.
Well, what I'm talking about, you're a lefty,
Yes.
so you would take a righty bass and turn it upside down, but you don't restring it.
Yeah. My grandpa had guitars sitting around when I was a kid. My dad had guitar, banjo, mandolin, and I couldn't restring it and play for a little bit and then restring it back. So I just learned from flipping it over, and it became natural. And by the time I could get my own guitars or basses, it was too late. The damage was done. So
I wonder if there are any people that play the harp that are lefties that would...
I've thought about that. I thought about a sitar. If I could have a left-handed sitar strung right-handed, that would be amazing. But it's not meant to be.
Yes. Well, the other thing, though, that's interesting about you, sometimes, a guy like Paul McCartney, he would string it like a lefty. I interviewed Jimmy Haslip a couple times, most recently earlier this year, and you guys do it the same way. The heavier strings are on the bottom, and the lighter strings are on the top, and which is really weird for the rest of us to watch.
For bass, I think it's ergonomic. Most of the stuff you want to play is on the low strings, I think, and you don't have to reach all the way across and flex that wrist that far all the time. It's more of a relaxed feel most of the time, I think. But there's weird stuff that I can do that maybe somebody else can't do. I mean, I can't do the popping and slapping. Well, there are people that play the way I do that do it just fine, like Mono Neon and probably Jimmy Haslip. But yeah, it's.
But what about trying to, you get together with other bass players, guitar players, you share licks, you show each other stuff. I would imagine that presented some challenges for you when you were coming up.
For me, not so much, because I'm used to looking at guitar players when they're showing me something. I'm used to translating that through my brain. But when I'm playing with a new guitar player, trying to show them something, they're just, do that again, So yeah, it's kind of weird.
It is, or maybe like I said to you earlier, maybe you watch YouTube videos in a mirror so you can see them turned around. I don't know. Well, let's talk about what you do with that bass and with that music. Names like The Obsessed and Kyuss and the other groups that you've played in immediately come to mind. How did your career get rolling, and from those early days with your dad and your grandpa to where you are now? Fill in some of the gaps for us in between.
Well, after I got married, I started engineering at a jingle house in L.A., and I got a call out of the blue from Wino, from The Obsessed, and the bass player had been in a motorcycle accident, was in a coma. He had a tour coming up, 3 weeks in Germany, and a recording of an album at the end in Berlin. And I was trying to be the responsible husband, holding down a job, career. But my wife said, you know what, I fell in love with you when you were going for it on bass, and we'll make ends meet somehow. You got to go for it. And that was life-changing. And so that 3-week tour in Germany got me overseas for the first time. My first actual tour was over here. And that led to playing in Kyuss. That led to recording Sky Valley with Kyuss. And that was pretty much the life changer right there, was that album. That's the one that I'll be remembered for, I reckon. People book my studio because of that album. People send me bass tracks to reamp because I still have that amp from that album. It's affected everything. It led to 15 years later, or no, 20 some odd years later, Dave Grohl calling out of the blue and asking me to play on the Sound City soundtrack, having a #1 song, having a Grammy, and so on.
That's very cool. You've done so much touring. You've done a lot of recording, and I know you're very facile on both sides of the glass. You like the recording engineering part. You've produced an awful lot of stuff. Tell us a little bit about that side of your career. You're a producer.
Yeah, I have a studio at our house now. I've had it for maybe 15 years, mostly underground stuff. I like working with new bands and showing them how fun it can be in the studio. Some more seasoned bands have come in. Like Karma to Burn came in and had a great time. They came back a second time. Things are real loose. I go for the live vibe. I've got ISO booths for the bass with a window so the bass player can be in there getting feedback. ISO booth for the guitar player, ISO booth for the vocalist, drums in the middle.
Sounds like a nice studio for inside your house.
It's so great for live tracking. It used to be a barn, and a contractor converted it into a house and added all these extra rooms around the barn.
Is it your actual house, or is it a barn behind your house?
It's a separate house on the property. I mean, we got so lucky with that spot. It's 40 acres out in Banning. There's a reservation on one side, U.S. Forestry on the other side, so nobody will ever build out there, and I can make all the noise I want. I could set up my amps outside and just use
California, right?
Yeah. Could use the canyon for a echo chamber.
Now that's as authentic as it gets. I mentioned we are sitting here in Warwick.
In Markneukirchen.
Hey, very good. Markneukirchen, Germany. Tell me about your Warwick bass. I know you are excited about the ones you've been playing, and I know you're particularly excited about the one that's coming up that's so new it's not even finished yet. Let's talk about Warwick.
Yeah, my first Warwick, it was a thumb. It's got a mid-range growl that works great for the faster stuff that I do. And then I've got a Katana that has just this deep tone to it that's better for the slower, doomy stuff. And this new one, I got a little emotional down there. It's an 8-string Katana, strung left-handed, strung right-handed on a lefty bass. Something that, if it weren't for Warwick, I would never.
Strung right-handed meaning it's still upside down. When the heavier strings are closer to the floor, right?
The octave strings are on the bottom.
Okay.
'Cause the way I play, I'm like tapping.
Yeah. And
I asked a lot of people, what do you think? Should they be on the top or the bottom? And I think the general consensus was on the bottom, just from the way I play.
So somewhere in the middle of those 8 strings is E, A, D, G. What do you have below?
It's going to be tuned to C sharp standard.
Okay.
It's for the low band, and oh man, it's beautiful. I just saw it for the first time. It's not done. The finish has been completed, the chrome finish. It's going to have the bull skull LEDs that I have in all my basses, because I am blind as a bat. I can't see my fretboard on stage at all, and usually I'm playing in darkness. Man, I can't wait to hear that thing.
Can you just rattle off the names of the 8 strings, just so we all understand? It's tuned F sharp, meaning the strings are what, the lowest one? And when I say the lowest one, I mean
the low is C sharp.
Okay.
And then it's whatever the standard intervals are.
Well, you said C sharp, not F sharp. Okay. Okay, so it's tuned in fourths, starting at C sharp, going up, right? Okay. And then there's no 2 strings that are the same pitch. Each one is a fourth away from.
The small strings are just octaves.
Okay.
So it thickens up the sound, like a 12-string guitar, but it's
Got it.
You
got it. You got it? Good. Okay.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear how that thing sounds.
Well, neither can we. Tell us what's keeping you busy these days.
I play in Fireball Ministry. We just played a festival in Vegas before I flew out here. We signed a record deal, and we're going to start recording at my place. I got a 2-inch machine at my studio now.
2-inch, like tape?
Yeah. So we start recording.
Are those hard to find these days? Do a lot of people use those?
They're available. There's a guy in Nashville that restores them, and I got it through him.
Okay, I know vinyl has become more popular in the last few years. I didn't realize people were also going back to tape. Are people, or are just you going back? You like that old school tape?
I was inspired after working with Dave Grohl. I worked on that Sound City soundtrack, and I watched him recording drums, and he was doing this huge tom fill, just trying to perfect this one spot in the song. And Butch Vig's going, I don't know, dude, that sounded pretty good. Dave's all, no, I can top it. So they would punch him in just on this one part, and he would do this crazy fill, and everybody in the room's just like, and you can't get back to that last take. You know, it was exciting. It was like watching Sean, the snowboarder.
Oh, yeah.
The Olympian guy.
I know who you mean.
Yeah, watching him do a trick, and is he gonna stick it? Yes. It was amazing.
Okay.
And that excitement, I was like, I got to go back to recording.
I understand punching in, but there's something about nonlinear, non-destructive editing that I think we've all gotten pretty used to, and you don't have that.
Yeah.
So
once you get it on tape, you can transfer it into Pro Tools and liquefy it, but or not. You can keep it on tape and just mix from there. You know.
Wow, that's really cool. I did not expect to hear that.
And I had a conversation with Joe Walsh actually about the excitement of recording analog. I was there when he was recording with the Foo Fighters out in Joshua Tree, and he walked up to the board, and we just started having this conversation about tape, and that added to my inspiration. Like, I got to get a tape machine.
He's a great guy. We just interviewed Joe on our other website called forguitarplayersonly.com. Search Joe Walsh, and you can check out that interview as well. What else do you have coming up, Scott?
Some studio stuff. I have people emailing me direct bass tracks, and I reamp them through the amp that was used on Sky Valley, for instance, or I have a bison head that's one of a kind that has
You have a bison head?
Yeah.
Hey,
It's the guy that does hovercraft guitar amps out of Portland, and he built me this special amp, and the tone is incredible. I'm kind of scared to take it out on the road. It's I won't say it's fragile, but if I were to mess that thing up, I would cry. It's a beautiful amp.
I'm getting the sense you're not on the road as much as you used to be, or
I
you're enjoying being at home?
Yeah. I can go 2 weeks without leaving the house.
That's a long stretch for you?
No. When I leave through that gate, it's too soon. I love being home. I love being with the animals, my wife. And when I'm working, I can walk to the studio in my pajamas and do a job and send it off. It's good. There's balance. I get to go out and play a little bit. I get to work, and I get to shovel horse crap.
What could be better than that?
Life balance.
Last question, Scott. Outside of music and recording and all those other things, what would you be if you were not a bass player?
When I was 4 or 5, my dream was to be a demolition expert, either wrecking ball or blowing up buildings. I have a picture that my mom framed of me driving a wrecking ball, just knocking down stuff.
I've interviewed somewhere between 400 and 500 bass players, and I've asked that question to most of them, and nobody's ever given me that answer. That's very cool. Well, just be careful and don't knock out anything that has people in it or is not supposed to be knocked down, but have fun. That does sound kind of like a fun job. Reminds me of the Steve Martin Father of the Bride movies. I don't know if you've seen those, but anyway, we're getting off topic here. Scott, it's great getting to know you, getting in touch with you again personally. Keep doing what you're doing, and good luck with all those projects, the studio and the touring and the well-rounded, balanced life that you lead. Very cool.
Have a fun rest of your week. This is amazing. Seeing old friends, and it's always inspiring just to be around these people and go home just dying to play. And,
yes. Warwick Base Camp is great. This is my 3rd time here. From the Warwick and Framus World Headquarters in, where are we?
Markneukirchen,
Germany. With Scott Reeder, I'm John Liebman. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.